Look, I hate to burst your bubble, but musicians, no matter how rich or famous they might be, at the end of the day, they're actually human. Just like you and me, they have flaws, they have problems, and they mess up from time to time. They have bad days, they have bad shows, they write bad songs, and now and then, one of them gets caught up in some sort of public mishap that they really wish never would have happened. But here's the thing, while they're certainly the same person, whether they're being famous musician type or not, trying to alter your view of their music due to something that happened to them outside of the world of music is nothing more than a childish and somewhat pointless effort. Just think for a minute of any rock band that made it really big between, say, 1970 and 1980. It doesn't really matter who, just pick one, like Led Zeppelin or Black Sabbath or Aerosmith or Van Halen. It really doesn't matter, you just get the general idea of the groups we're talking about. Though you might not love their individual music, you can't argue their overall importance to the progression of music, or try to argue against their collective status as rock legends. But the fact of the matter is, within all four of these bands, as well as any of the other similar bands, you'll find drug abuse, drug arrests, rehab stints, other sorts of arrests, public outbursts and meltdowns, and hell, there's even a murder charge in one of those four bands. But does anyone bring this stuff up when judging their music? No. Well, rarely. Very rarely, if at all. Or perhaps you want to think about that timeless soul icon who was jailed a number of times on weapons charges, drug charges, and many other times for domestic abuse, but when was the last time you listened to the godfather of soul singing I Feel Good and thought of those facts? The Beatles, Elvis Presley, Britney Spears, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, Bjork, every single one of them has a long list of incidents they just as soon forget. And when you really look into things, there's almost no artist from any genre or any era who doesn't have a list of their own. So tell me this, why is it that certain performers get to be held to different standards in this idea? We'll forgive this guy over here for murdering somebody, but the guy over here who just fired a few people from his band, he's the worst person in the history of the music industry all of a sudden. And then of course, there is that one performer who was never convicted of the many reprehensible charges that were brought against him, and yet the charges in question have become synonymous with his songs anytime they're played. I'm in no way condoning the acts of which he was never convicted, but at the same time, you cannot deny the fact that his recordings remain as phenomenal today as they ever were, and he is an absolute essential part of music history, regardless of how the general public and the mass media have painted him. Or a quicker way of making this point, I haven't mentioned his name, I haven't mentioned any of his songs, and I guarantee every single one of you knows exactly who I'm talking about. Beyond that, you also have a situation of an artist who has a very uncontainable ego and general demeanor. And to be honest, this can be as big a turnoff to a band as anything when it gets out of hand. Whether it's a singer who can't admit when they're wrong, or another singer who doesn't realize the earth actually doesn't revolve around them, there are few things that can wreck a band for me quicker than this. But to be completely honest, and to call myself out, that is still completely unfair to the music in question. Just because Bono makes me want to rip my ears off every time he decides to lecture me for not helping out the world while he sits back on his millions of dollars, or how badly I want to put my fist in Axl Rose's face for going around the world over the last decade fronting a group that should be called rock band Guns N' Roses, it doesn't actually make any of the music they made before these incidents any better or any worse. This is the key. The music is on one side and the person is on the other. The art is just the art, and while the person is obviously the catalyst for the music in question, the actions of the latter really shouldn't have so much bearing on the former. Great music is great music, and you have to remember that even the most godly of rock gods or the most swagged out hip-hop MC are still just human at the end of the day. And maybe once we all cement that reality in our heads, we can all get back to enjoying music for nothing more than the sake of the music.